Hello, I'm your host Jim McClean. Welcome back to another episode of the Banterflix Movie Review Show here on NvTv. Let's see what movies we'll be talking about tonight. We'll be chatting about Kraven the Hunter, which is out in cinemas now. Our pick of the streams is Red One on Amazon Prime. And we'll be picking out some of the movies to look out for on Freeview TV over the festive period. So that's what we've lined up for you this week. Joining me in the studio this evening is Dr Nicole Hamilton.
Hello.
And Aaron Flanagan.
Hi, Jim.
Hello to you both. As always, we have a packed show, so let's move on and crack on with some movie news.
Crypto. Home. Daily home.
Superman.
So that's a look at Superman Legacy. It's going to be out in cinemas next year. We have a new Superman. This is directed by James Gunn. He is rebooting the DC universe, and I guess also stepping into kind of a Kevin Feige-esque role for DC to try and kind of get some sense of order of what has been a bit of a mixed bag post the Zack Snyder stuff. Let's not talk about that. But here we have an upbeat, bright, shiny, new Man of Steel. Kal-El is back, this time with David Cornsweet taking over the leading role, an actor I'm not that familiar with. Aaron, you would almost think we had planned this to have yourself from the comic book guys on the show, so I know we've only got a bit of a glimpse at the teaser, I guess, but are you excited for this?
Genuinely, having seen the trailer, I am super excited. As you say, it's not a massive look into it, but originally when David Cornsweet was cast and stuff, I was very unsure about it. You know, James Gunn had a very, very big void that he had to fill with this because DC have so long been lacking compared to the Marvel Universe. So I was a little bit worried when the cast was announced, but as things started to drip through, I started to get a little bit more excited, and having seen the trailer, I cannot wait. You know, I'm a Marvel man at heart. However, having seen that, I am very, very excited for what's to come. So fingers crossed that James Gunn knows what he's doing. You know, we've seen that in the past, so it looks like he's got that formula already in place to make this a super success, and hopefully he can do to DC what he done with Marvel.
I'm quietly excited about this. James Gunn, as you mentioned, Aaron, you know, we've seen him do great stuff with the Guardians of the Galaxy and also the Suicide Squad after kind of a bit of a mess from the first film round that we got with David Ayer. So yeah, Nicole, what about you? Are you excited about this?
So James Gunn is on my list of like mortal enemies. The only thing that he's ever done that I genuinely really love is the Scooby-Doo live actions. Everything else, I just feel like he doesn't work for me, and I have to accept that now. I am a DC person at heart. I love DC, I love Batman especially, so I'm not going to be too upset if this isn't down my alley, because I'm less of a Superman person anyway. The thing that I am very, very, very excited for is Rachel Brosnahan as Lois. I think she is the best bit of casting that they've done so far. I don't know how James Gunn can mess that up for me, so I'm hoping that'll be good. And also Crypto is adorable, so I'm going to be really happy about that.
This looks a lot of fun, but there's a lot of characters in there as well. Of course, we have Lex Luthor back. You have to have Lex for Superman. But Nathan Fillion as the Green Lantern just seems like a perfect piece of casting.
Nathan Fillion is Green Lantern. You know, I watched, I think everybody did, the DC animated universe back in the day was probably the best thing that DC ever really did in terms of on screen. And Nathan Fillion did the voice of Green Lantern for a lot of the movies on that. So he has always been my Hal Jordan, my Green Lantern for that. Now in this, he's playing Guy Gardner, which isn't necessarily Hal Jordan, but it is still a version of Green Lantern. Very, very excited. Perfect casting.
So even for you, Aaron, we've got Nathan Fillion now. You still always have a soft spot for the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. Yeah,
that film I absolutely adored. I don't know why it gets such a bad rap. It gave Ryan Reynolds a platform that ultimately led him to becoming Deadpool, because it's a similar character, and if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have the Deadpool that we all know and love. So thanks to Green Lantern, he created something that has now paid dividends, not just for him, but for the whole world. So that Green Lantern film will forever live in my heart, and should live in everybody's.
Lives in infamy for some people. I'm just going to look comic book guru, Aaron Flanagan. Maybe you have to think about that next year. But look, that is something that's out in 2025. We're quietly excited about that. I think that's out, as I say, in 2025. Let's move on to some films that are hitting cinemas this weekend.
Got a rogue alien on the loose. How do we find it?
Start with a giant fireball?
I love it. Let's start with a giant fireball.
My name is Mufasa.
I'm Sarabi.
My name is Taka. He's going to start a new kingdom. Come with us. You don't have anyone.
She does indeed have someone.
That's Zazu, my scout. Don't eat him.
You heard her. Do not eat me.
So that's a look at Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and, of course, Mufasa, the Lion King sequel that we all knew we wanted. Another live-action outing for that. Nicole, come to you first. Either of these two exciting you? Are you going to be rushing to the cinema this weekend? Because I know next week we're going to have our end-of-year show, so we won't get a chance to review them. We haven't seen them, so of course we can't review them. But either of these piquing your interest?
Not particularly. I haven't actually seen any of the Sonic the Hedgehog movies at all, so I don't think I'll be rushing to see this one. Mufasa, I saw the trailer, and the only thing that was going through my head was, this is just The Lion King 2, but without Kovu. And who wants The Lion King 2 without Kovu? Nobody. So yeah, I don't know. It's not. I didn't love the live action The Lion King. It just didn't do it for me at all, so I don't think I'll be rushing to the cinema to see this one either.
I don't know. I don't really know why there was a need for this film to exist, but obviously, the head honchos at Disney think it will make money. It probably will. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see whether it'll be another flop, because this year has been hit and miss for Disney and for some of the big blockbusters. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Keanu Reeves in this. Okay, you've kind of got my interest. Maybe he's going to go kind of bit John Wick. I doubt it greatly. Not one, but two Jim Carrey performances. What's not to like there? I'll be honest, guests and studios, I'd forgotten that there was a Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So to have 3 coming around is a bit of a surprise. But of the two, I'm the target audience for neither. But the presence of Keanu Reeves, he's always going to be, Bill and Ted, I'll always love him for that. That's probably going to get my pick of those two. Aaron, I have a humble guess. You might be in the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 camp here.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one of the two, it would be, but I don't think I'll be going to see either. The Sonic, I mean, listen, Sonic is cool. They got Jim Carrey out of retirement for this. Apparently, he took it because they paid him a lot of coin for it. But ultimately, as you said, I don't think I'm the target demographic. I think Lion King should have always remained animated. It's a film that, as a child, I absolutely loved and I've continued to watch as an adult, and it couldn't get any better than that. So I don't think there was a need for this. Sonic will be lots of fun. You know, there are Sonic comics that are good fun. The Sonic films, and as a franchise, it's pretty cool. Love the games. So if any of them I had to go and watch, it would be that, but I think I might give them a miss.
Well, you have nephews and nieces. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, I don't know, maybe Lion King, Mufasa might be their target audience, yeah. But I'm guessing Sonic the Hedgehog 3 might be right up their boat.
Oh, for sure. I mean, even recently in the shop we had one of the voice actors from Sonic, from one of the other Sonics, and there's a massive audience out there for it. You know, we know that, and as you say, my wee niece and nephew Alfie and Lily will definitely want to see both of those respectively. But I'll maybe get Rhonda to take them.
The lovely Rhonda, she's always crying out for a reference on this show. So there you go, hello Rhonda. So those are movies that are out this weekend. We haven't had a chance to review them because we haven't seen them. So I think we'll move on and chat about some movies we have seen.
Embrace who you really are, son. And you will become a legend.
When the man comes around. When the man comes around.
So that's a look at Kraven the Hunter, directed by Jesse Chandor, starring Aaron Taylor-Johnson. The latest, possibly last, of Sony's Spider-Man adjacent. I know there's a phrase for it, Spider-Man adjacent movies within their universe that's set within the Spider-Man world, but doesn't overly reference Spider-Man. We've had Venom, we've had Morbius, we've had Madam Web. What a ride that was earlier this year. You actually missed that, Aaron. Before we get into chatting about our thoughts on the movie, since we have you on, our comic book aficionado, although, as you say, your previous talk about the Green Lantern makes me think we may need to get Rhonda on next time, but you want to give our viewers who might be unfamiliar with the character of Kraven the Hunter a little bit about, as we always call it, a bit of comic book 101.
Well, Kraven, aka Sergei Kravenov, was he's one of the earliest Spider-Man villains. 1964, created in the comics. It was the great Stan Lee and Steve Ditko created him issue 15 in 1964. And he was created at a time to be a very rich, aristocratic sort of big game hunter. And, you know, as he's a big game hunter, what bigger foe than a man who's a spider? So that's who he wanted to go after. And throughout the years, Kraven, joined the Sinister Six. He had quite a lot of important storylines within the Spider universe, and probably the most notable was in the late 80s, one called Kraven's Last Hunt. A character that I have loved for a long time, not a character who's in the comics massively by any stretch, but anytime he does appear, he's always somebody who you're usually rooting for, believe it or not, as a character. So yeah, when the film was announced, I was really excited to see what they were going to do with it, and then I watched it.
So you've set the scene, and you've mentioned that you are a fan of the character in the comic book pages. Watched this knowing very little, but my experience of Kraven the Hunter is from the animated series in the early 90s, which was my gateway drug into Spider-Man. And I like J.C. Chandor as a director outside of blockbuster stuff. He's an interesting choice. I don't think he's necessarily the right choice for this film. I love many, many years ago was All Is Lost, a great film with Robert Redford, again, dreamboat of his day. I'm gonna be honest, right from the get-go, I find this dull as dishwater. 2 hours of my life, I would probably rather watch The Wallpaper instead of this, and I know I'm trying to do that for laughs. I like Aaron Taylor-Johnson. He was someone I still think could be a great Bond. You've got Russell Crowe there. You have talent in front of the camera, behind the camera, but we just get something that's just tepid, generic. Maybe the problem lies with the screenplay. I'll come back to you in a second, Aaron. But Nicole, Aaron and I have talked quite a bit. Where are you going to weigh in now? Did you have a lot of fun watching Kraven the Hunter?
I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was atrocious. It didn't reach the highs of Madam Web for me, which I genuinely loved because it's so stupid. And I remember seeing it in the cinema just thinking, I can't believe they did this. Why did they do this? Why would anybody ever do this? But thankful that they did because it made it entertaining. This is serviceable. It doesn't do anything, unless you're a comic book fan that wants it like strictly adhered to. It's not offensive, it just is there and it's not doing very much. Some of the action sequences are like him moving around kind of become a little bit ridiculous, which I did find quite entertaining. But apart from that, there's really not a lot to cling to. I wouldn't say there's a lot of particularly interesting characterization. The story itself is not great. I'd say the best bit about it, probably for me, was Christopher Abbott. Is that his name? His little sequences I find quite fun, and then they don't really go anywhere, and you don't really understand what he's doing or how he's doing it or anything like that. So the like slightly weirder parts of it I found entertaining. The rest of it was just, it happened in front of me. That's kind of all I can say.
It was, to paraphrase the name of our own podcast, it was pixels on a screen, and that's exactly what it was for me. And it throws in a lot of villains I know from Spider-Man. There's Rhino, we have the Chameleon as well, I think there's the Foreigner in there as well. And it went nowhere. I just didn't enjoy it. I was bored. Aaron, as the one who's admitted that you are a Kraven the Hunter fan, what did you think?
The only good thing this did, in my eyes, was it has killed off that Sony Spider-Man adjacent, whatever you called it, universe, because, you know, even some people have enjoyed the Venom stuff. You know, I didn't like it at all. Tom Hardy could sort of semi-hold a film. Aaron Taylor-Johnson is a great actor. I've seen him in some things that I absolutely adored. Complete and utter wrong choice for Kraven. He's too good looking, he's too young, everything about him's wrong. In fact, they had the perfect choice in the film to play Kraven. Russell Crowe would have been perfect as him. So I do not understand the casting. They had a brilliant list of people, you know, even Anna Dubois was in it, and, you know, some phenomenal people in the film, but just completely miscast. You know, I watched the first 10 minutes. They did like a preview screen way before it came out, and it actually got me excited, believe it or not, only because at the end of it, there's a wee, again, they're a comic book nerd coming in, but there was a wee bit where when you find out that Kraven has killed an inmate to get into the prison, it had 0864 on it, which is when Kraven was released as a comic book. That was his first appearance. And then even throughout the film, they try to do wee nods with the Daily Bugle, you know, newspaper and stuff. So those things are okay. A lot of people are offended by that who are comic book fans. I quite like that because it shows that they're trying to still keep some sort of resonance to the source material. But apart from that, everything else that they tried to do to make it a comic book film was completely wrong. And yes, I'm a comic book fan, so I will be a little bit harder on it. But even aside from that, I love the Expendables, this film, so that tells you what I like. The fact that I can sit through a 2-hour Expendables film and come out going, this is a class action film, this film did not do it for me. I'm gutted to pay it for to go to see it in the cinema, but it has killed the universe, which shouldn't have been created in the first place. Sony should stick to doing what they do well, which is Spider-Man films. Every Spider-Man film they've done have been brilliant. Let's be honest, you know, some of the best stuff that there has been. So, yeah, the nail in the coffin. Happy days.
I know we're pushed for time, and I know we're busting to talk about Red One, because that's our pick of the streams this week, because this is our last show before Christmas. So do you think that, other than the fact that I think the screenplays have been very generic, very meh, coming back to you, Aaron, and we'll come back to you as well, Nicole, but do you think that has been the central problem here? Not in the sense that they've done a Kraven movie, Madam Web, but the fact that they've tried to do it without having Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think when you look at people like James Gunn who have done things like Guardians, who are unknown characters, and it clearly worked at a time, I think Sony's seen that and sort of thought, right, legally we can't do anything with Spider-Man, but if people like Spider-Man, they're bound to like all of the villains that he's ever had. But those villains, the reason they work is because they're going against Spider-Man, not because we love them as standalone characters. I just get the feeling that they thought it was going to make a boatload of money, But what they've come to realise is actually maybe we should put our money into something that, you know, will make them it, because that's not going to do it.
Yeah, I think, you know, serviceable is the phrase I use. As I say, this particularly Kraven the Hunter reminds me of the kind of, whether you want to say the bad days of kind of Marvel stuff earlier on, with the Ghost Rider, Nick Cage kind of stuff. I've soft spot for those movies, but they weren't great. Nicole, do you think that's been generally the problem for this franchise, this Spider-Man adjacent franchise, that they've tried to do it without the web crawler?
I think that's a big part of it, yeah. I just get the impression that, as you say, that they're just making them because anything attached to Spider-Man will make money. They're not thinking about, well, what sort of story could we actually tell with these characters that might interest people and might actually make people care about them? And so they're just churning them out, and nobody's actually interested in what they have to say or what they're offering. And people have definitely had enough. Maybe 5-10 years ago, maybe these movies would have been successful. But now there's no reason for people to go and see these films anymore. We've had enough superhero movies. We know a lot of these stories already, and people just aren't interested anymore.
Yeah, it's quality control. There's a glut of content out there, and I hate talking about movies as content, but that's what I guess execs, whether it's Disney, Sony, Universal, all the big studios, that's how they treat that. But look, it's a discussion for another day. We've talked quite a lot this week about Kraven the Hunter. It's given us very little time to talk about our next movie, and I guess in a moment or two we'll find out whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Let's go home. We're coming at you. Things are about to get real.
You don't have a Wonder Woman action figure, do you?
Not how it works. We got snowmen!
Well, it was nice to meet you, Cal. Good luck with everything.
Here we have, where do we even begin with Red One? A great big bombastic Marvel-esque blockbuster involving Santa, who is played by J.K. Simmons. We have a Santa daddy, a daddy indeed this time round, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is there to be his bodyguard. And what happens, unfortunately, through various generic reasons, Santa is kidnapped, and only Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Chris Evans, master kind of cyber geek that he is, can track him down. So, Nicole, I'll come to you first. Did you enjoy your experience watching Red One?
I really didn't. Not at all. What you were saying about Kraven the Hunter, if AI had created that, you'd be embarrassed. That's how I felt about this film. The further on into it I got, the more that I was just convinced that a single person was not involved in the making of that film. I found it a real slog to watch, and it felt very much like everyone was on autopilot for me, except maybe J.K. Simmons, possibly. I think he was having a good time. The Rock is playing the same character that he always does. Chris Evans was basically playing kind of Johnny Storm, which I feel like he's been doing riffs of the last couple of years, which makes me really sad because I think he's a great actor, just not in these roles. Even Lucy Liu, my beloved Lucy Liu, she was there.
Lucy Liu we did get a sense Lucy Liu on autopilot in this. She was there for the money. Hey, actors, they have bills to pay, they have mortgages, sometimes you got to pick up a paycheck. We all have that. I thought this was, like you said with Kraven the Hunter, Nicole, I thought it was fine, perfectly serviceable. There's nothing about it, I think, that makes me want to go out and rewatch it. I think Prime maybe think that this could be a new franchise for them. I don't know. There's lots of things there. We've got a bit of Krampus in there. What's not to like about that? I don't know. I think the more things I know about Red One is about off the screen, particularly involving Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and certain things he will do in bottles, but we'll not talk about that because we're pre-Watershed. When it's a long set and you just can't get to the bathroom. But I thought it was fine. Aaron, you love the Green Lantern. So I'm going to imagine by your little face that you had a ball with this.
I absolutely loved it. I genuinely did. I'm not the right person to go on shows like this because my taste is, I like stuff sometimes that I can switch off to when I'm watching it, and this is what you could do with this film. I haven't felt Christmassy this year, right? I put this on, and it's the first thing that made me feel Christmassy all year. And I don't know if that's sad, saying how I felt this year, but I don't know, everything about it, you're right, it was, you know, it felt very much, autopilot's a really good way to put it. All of them felt like they just knew what they were doing, they were getting their paycheck. But that's okay sometimes, you know. I think it was heartfelt in the right places. I love the fact that toy shops lead other toy shops around the world. That's mental. I own a comic shop. If that's what happens in the, in the storeroom, unreal. But there was just enough of the cast were good enough in it that it meant that I could enjoy it the whole way through. And as I say, some of the stuff was a wee bit off. I thought having the talking polar bear and all that stuff was a wee bit ropey, but I can see past all that because at its heart, it felt like a huge, as a Christmas film, you don't often see a huge blockbuster Christmas film. This is like proper, I know it's the same director as Jumanji, but it's like proper big scale, you know, avalanches of, you know, fighting and all that stuff. And having, you know, The Rock as a bodyguard to Santa. How can you not like that? That's unreal. I love The Rock and everything. He's the same character and everything, but that's okay. I loved him as a wrestler. I love him as an actor. I love the man. So for me, go see Red One.
Well, I am glad, Aaron, that you have had a ball watching this, and I'm glad that it has got you feeling festive. But we are nearly out of time, but I have asked you both, and I've picked a few as well, since this is our last show before Christmas, I thought we still live in a world of Freeview TV, although you know, some of us here before we came in were using much more kind of terrestrial phrases about that. Made you feel very old, Aaron. But I've asked you to pick some movies you think we should look out for on Freeview television, not on streamers, not on premium channels like Sky, etc., that we can all sit around and watch. Nicole, what's one at least that you've picked out for us?
So mine is not even remotely a Christmassy film at all. It's The Haunting, the original 1963, I think. It is one that I just think is a very good winter watch. It is spooky, it's a ghost story, which I think always works really well kind of around this time of year. The book is one of my favourite books of all time, and I think that this adaptation of it is just absolutely fantastic. And I think it's one of the best horror movies that's ever been created, whilst also being a little bit cosy and nice for this sort of time of year.
Sadly, Nicole, no love for the remake featuring our very own Liam Neeson. When's that on?
That is on the 23rd of December on BBC Two.
Okay, great choice. To say Christmas is a great time for ghost stories. One of the ones I have picked actually is Ghostbusters Afterlife, and weirdly, it's not because I'm a huge fan of the film. I didn't enjoy it that much when it was released in cinema. I do think it was just expectation. I still have an issue about fandom and kind of manipulation. That's on BBC on Christmas Eve. The other film I have picked, King Richard, on the 27th of December, 9 p.m. on BBC Two. A great Oscar-winning performance by Will Smith that has now completely been overshadowed by Slapgate and everything that happened during that Academy Awards ceremony with Chris Rock. A great performance, a film I really like, but I just think it's been overshadowed now by events. Aaron, we are nearly out of time. What are the movies you're picking? You've already said you're feeling particularly festive after watching Red One. Now you're in peak festive spirit. What will you be watching over Christmas?
The two bangers that I picked out are Channel 4, 27th of December, 8 o'clock, Greatest Showman. Not massively Christmassy, but certainly a film that gets everybody in the mood and puts everybody in a good place. So definitely stick that on. And the other one, what a way to bring in the new year. 31st of December, 6 o'clock, BBC Two, E.T. Need I say more?
There you go. Great choices all round. So, as we said, there's plenty of movies on, and everyone will always complain that there's nothing on after. But as we say, there is loads to pick out for. So that is us pretty much out of time. All that's left for me to do now is thank my two guests here in the studio. So thank you very much, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aaron.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks very much for watching at home. We'll be back next week with our end of year review show. But all that's left for me to do now is wish you all at home a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next week. But for now, goodbye.